Hi, everyone, and welcome to Biolyfe Learning, a platform for us to spread some information about topics we at Biolyfe feel strongly about. We'll cover a host of topics that deal with anti aging techniques, longevity practices, the latest regenerative biologics, and any new and promising science in this field. Feel free to send us questions and share our content. Let's take back control of our biology. Welcome back to Biolyfe Learning with myself, Brian, and Dr. Peter Schulz. Today we're discussing NAD+, or nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide, but that is a huge mouthful, so we'll just keep it to NAD+. Doc, NAD+ is a huge buzzword at the moment.
Yeah.
Associated with energy levels, fatigue, anti-aging, DNA integrity, brain fog, amongst a whole host of other things.
Yeah.
What is NAD+, and what should we know about it?
Yeah, thanks, Brian. I'm excited to talk about another hallmark of aging. I mean, these webinars or learning sessions that we're talking about are really trying to get out to everybody some of the things that happen as we age and cause us to kind of degenerate a bit. And mitochondrial dysfunction is one of the main hallmarks of aging. So when we look at that, NAD is super important in maintaining the integrity of the mitochondria. And the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, or this is the energy factory of the cell. So NAD is responsible for producing ATP inside the mitochondria of the cell. And ATP really is the energy molecule. So without NAD, it wouldn't produce energy, but it's also, if NAD declines in the cell, we don't produce as much energy. NAD is really important in a couple of different things. One is cell communication. So this is something that we talked about a little bit before as far as cell signaling throughout the body. It's really important in DNA repair, which happens all the time, and we're trying to repair these things. And then it's also important in immune function and inflammation. Yeah.
Okay. So knowing generally what NAD does inside of our bodies, what has this got to do with anti-aging?
Yeah, so mitochondrial dysfunction as a hallmark of aging, meaning one of the reasons why our body declines, we end up with a handful of different things that go on because of mitochondrial dysfunction. And some of these things we like to be able to test and measure, and this is really why we hit on this one, because this is something we can test and measure and then do something about. So one of the things that we'll measure in our aging biomarker panel that we do is reactive oxygen species, and that's oxidative stress of the cell. And that causes cell damage and leads to things like cancer, inflammation and cancer and things like that. There are also some things that everybody would notice as we get older. It's muscle frailty, super important for NAD levels to be maximized for muscle strength. Bone frailty, so osteoporosis. I'm talking about people who are going, look, I'm osteoporotic, what do I do? Well, NAD optimization is super important to maintain bone density and actually build bone. Immune function, so how well our immune system functions, also super important. Now this might be one of the most important things, because we need to be able to clean up damaged cells, senescent cells and tumor cells and so on and so forth. That gets me to cell senescence, which is something that we've talked about. Anybody who's, people who've been following my emails and reading those, we talked quite a bit about cellular senescence, so zombie cells.
Zombie cells.
Yeah, and so our immune system needs to take care of those, but NAD is really important in that process. And just general immune function. So these things are really why we need good optimal levels of NAD. There are a few reasons why we decrease, why NAD declines in our body. One is that we have more repair to do as we age, right? When we're young, we haven't accumulated as much damage, and when we get older, we have more damage that we need to repair. So we quite literally use up more NAD. We also start to lose or not have enough of the building blocks of NAD. And we need to be able to recycle broken down NAD molecules and build them back up. And then we also lose the enzyme that actually converts those building blocks into NAD. And so these are some of the reasons why we lose some of that. Yeah.
And if you're NAD insufficient, what are some of the symptoms we would pick up from that?
Yeah, they're things that everybody would notice, you know, from mental fog and chronic fatigue, general health overall being kind of poor health, where you seem to not be able to battle diseases, you get sick more often, things like that, sleep issues, skin issues, a whole host of things really.
Okay, so in short, optimal NAD levels are very beneficial as we age. Now, I'm 35 years old. I'm relatively fit and healthy. Should I be worried about these levels? And if so, what do I do to manage those levels?
Good question. We don't always know if we have proper levels of NAD or not. That's the benefit of testing. And at 35, for instance, you probably have relatively good levels of NAD. There are reasons why somebody under the age of 40 may have lower levels of NAD, and that's through chronic illnesses, infections, traumas, things that your body literally has to do more. If you think of what I was talking about before as far as repair, if you've had a history of multiple traumas and maybe surgeries or infections and illnesses, your NAD is probably declined at that point. But generally, as a normal biomarker, we would look at that in somebody over the age of 40 and say this is when we start to see it decline a little bit. And the older somebody is, usually the more deficient they are. But it also depends a lot on your health and your lifestyle and that kind of thing. So we have a test to measure it, and basically it's a very easy test. It's just a little blood spot on a card, and we can measure your intracellular NAD levels. Now, that's the most important part. We have intracellular, which is inside the cells, and that does all the mitochondrial function I'm talking about. And then we have extracellular NAD, that's outside of the cells. And that's also important. It carries out a lot of different functions. It's not going to be universal in people, and so it's going to go up and down. And so it's not something that we normally test much of, but we do test inside the cells how much NAD is there and whether those are at optimal levels. And then we come to what to do about it, right? Yeah. So if you have suboptimal NAD levels inside the cells, we need to boost it for all the reasons we talked about. And there are a few different ways of boosting it. The best way is through a specific supplement. Now we have these supplements here, and I only use very specific ones that are guaranteed to raise your level of intracellular NAD when we test before, and then we dose, and then we test afterwards, and we can see that we've actually increased that. And so that's really important to have a type of precursor to NAD supplement that actually is going to work. The next way to boost your NAD is really through IV or injection. So we carry out these IVs here in the clinic, and those are about twice a month usually that people would do. And we're not going to really do a lot of testing for that, because that's going to mostly boost your extracellular energy. And it's really effective, though, at boosting how you feel, how you can respond to especially an acute symptom or acute illness, or if you've traveled a lot and that kind of thing. The injection that you do is just a little pen that you take home and you do it on your own. And that'll also boost that extracellular NAD. It'll do a little bit of intracellular boosting as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
I think that covers NAD plus for now. I really hope you enjoyed our session today, because there'll be a lot more to come. If you have any more questions, feel free to get in touch with us. But otherwise, have a great day, and we'll see you soon.